Basketball season is rolling on, and players are reaching big-time milestones.
Conferences are starting to show their true colors on the basketball court.
And while Virginia Tech football looks to the future, it's conference championship week across the country.
We have all that and more on this edition of the 3304 Sports Crossover Show.
Hello and welcome from the Center for the Arts studio in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm Riley Klaus, joined by Haden Tolbert. Haden, we had a week off. There wasn't a show last week, so we both enjoyed a little time off. How was your Thanksgiving break?
Yeah, it was good. The food was good, but ultimately the football was good. You saw the Cowboys beat the Chiefs, and then the Packers beat the Lions, and some good college football. The big rivalry against Ohio State and Michigan, that was a good game.
Well, Virginia Tech students like you and I took some time off for Thanksgiving break, but a member of the women's basketball team didn't take a break from scoring. For more on Mel Daly's journey to the elusive quadruple-digit mark, here's Kayla Bogdan.
Virginia Tech's very own Mel Daly etched her name into the record books over Thanksgiving weekend, officially joining the 1,000-point club after a phenomenal showing at the Paradise Jam tournament. A quick recap. Daly's college career started 4 years ago in Chicago, where she played for Northwestern, appearing in 94 games but only starting 30 of them, and all the while being their second leading scorer. After transferring to Virginia Tech this season, Daly hasn't missed a beat. She started all 8 games and brings the heat every single time. If Paradise Jam proved anything, it's that Mel Daly rises to the moment. She led the Hokies in their third-place game of the Island Division tournament against Oregon State, where she scored a season high of 24 points, coming just short of her career high of 25 points, a record she set back with the Wildcats. Even more impressive, she shot a scorching 83% from the field. Daly just couldn't miss, and set the tone for the Hokies, helping bring them back from their 2-loss streak in the tournament after an otherwise undefeated start to the season. Even in defeat, Daly continued to shine. In a hard-fought game against BYU, where she claimed her 1,000-point career, she led her team, scoring 10 before halftime and putting her name in the record books. In that back-and-forth game, the Hokies fell short in the last quarter, but Daly stayed strong, with head coach Megan Duffy remarking after the game that Daly is the spark that this team needs. Capping off that unforgettable weekend, Daly earned a spot on the Island Division All-Tournament team, averaging an outstanding 20 points, 3 steals, and 2 assists per game throughout the tournament. Now, as the Hokies prepare for their ACC-CEC Challenge matchup against Florida at Cassell Coliseum this Thursday, all eyes are once again on Mel Daly. Can she keep the momentum rolling? With ACC play tipping off Sunday, the stakes are only getting higher. It's a big week for the Hokies, and it seems Daly and the rest of the team are just getting started.
Thanks, Kayla. Well, Mel Daly is a member of the women's basketball team for Virginia Tech, and Haden, they've had a season so far, but the conference play season begins this Sunday. So what have you seen from the team leading up to this point so far?
I'm really impressed with Carly Wenzel. I think she showed some leadership. You know, they were obviously leading the team in points, and she was kind of displaying that court vision. They had a couple of losses against JMU and BYU, but they really picked it up against Oregon State, and she was a key contributor of that. She was tallying 13 points and leading the team in assists, so great maturity by Wenzel.
Yeah, they've played some big-time out-of-conference opponents, which has maybe helped their resume in terms of going into potential March Madness when we get to that stage. But how about the men's team as well, Haden? They had a nail-biter against South Carolina in the ACC-SEC Challenge, and you were right there on the court to witness it. What did you see in that game? Yeah,
it was a good game. I was viewing it a little differently from sideline reporting, but, good game nonetheless. The Hokies had chances to run away with it, but foul trouble and fouling out by Tyler Johnson and Neo kind of kept them in that, and, losing key players like that is going to, a team like South Carolina is going to progress and, get in the game.
And it's going to be interesting to see as well. Toby Lawal might be out for an extended period of time, a star player for Virginia Tech. They had that big bounce back after they were up and down during the Thanksgiving break with their tournament, but they have a big-time test as well against George Mason, who to begin the week was in the top 50 of the net rankings. But just like the women, when it comes to the end, they're playing in the ACC, which, Haden, is a good conference this season.
Yeah, definitely. And we're starting to see some identity of these college basketball teams. And for more on ACC basketball and how teams are shaping up, here is our very own Lucas Harrison.
Basketball season is gaining steam, and the ACC is looking to hop aboard the Madness Express, which arrives in March. It's only December, and I'm talking about March, but when you look at the ACC, you can't help yourself, and the ACC is looking to bounce back. After an historic low amount of bids to the tournament last season, with only 4 teams making the tournament, the smallest conference percentage since the tournament expanded in 1975. The ACC also wants to forget the ACC-SEC Challenge last year because that ended 14-2 in favor of the SEC. But this year, the ACC looks like the ACC of old, with nearly every team having tournament aspirations. And the top dog hasn't changed. It's in the ACC. It's the Duke Blue Devils. Cameron Bruiser looks like a certified star in his freshman campaign, averaging 23 points and 9 rebounds in just his first 9 games of the season. The next question is, have they played anyone? And the answer is, oh, yes they have. 4 tournament teams from last year with dominant wins over Texas and Kansas by double digits and back-to-back wins over Arkansas and Florida have established Duke as a powerhouse this season. They do have an undefeated Michigan State up next, but let's move on to the other top 10 team in the ACC, Louisville. The Cardinals started 11th in the AP poll and have since moved to 6th by week 5. Guards like Ryan Conwell and Mikael Brown Jr. are dynamic scorers that lead the way offensively and defensively. Stealing and limiting the amount of possessions the opponent has makes this team dangerous come conference play. The Tar Heels from Chapel Hill, North Carolina are the 3rd and final ranked ACC team with a current record of 7-1. A win over Kansas in Game 2 of their season and a bounce-back win over Kentucky shows this team has some fight in them. A balanced attack of freshmen Caleb Wilson and Luka Bogovac and a more established players like Henry Vasar and Seth Trimble give this team a very promising dynamic come tournament time. The ACC isn't a 3-team conference, though. So what other teams can make some noise come tournament time? Teams like Clemson, SMU, and UVA are all teams that I could see making some noise come tournament time. SMU's ability to close out close games against great opponents, Clemson's deep roster and consistency, and UVA's defensive prowess are all attributes of a team that can make some noise come tournament time. NC State under Will Wade has looked great at some times this season, but slip-ups against Seton Hall and Texas knocked them out of the AP Top 25. But they are still dangerous, especially with transfers like Darian Williams and Van Allen Lubin. Every team, with the exception of Boston College, has a winning record currently, and programs like Syracuse and Notre Dame, who went through the absolute gauntlet of the Players' Era tournament, still have a winning record. Syracuse, who could have been number 3 Houston if it wasn't for poor free-throw shooting, got their marquee win over number 12 Tennessee on Tuesday. And they have been without their best player, Donnie Freeman, over this tough stretch. And I can't talk about every single team in the ACC, but the last team I want to talk about are the Virginia Tech Hokies. Mike Young has this team looking dangerous with 2 Power Conference wins over South Carolina and Providence already this season. Both those games did end in overtime, but it did show how dynamic the Hokies are. Neil Abdalis, who came to VT already projected a second-round pick in the NBA draft, is one of the best playmakers in this draft and in college basketball as a whole. Each team in the ACC has their own story, and I can't cover them all, but conference play is shaping up to be an all-out war, with each team looking to claim the ACC championship and punch their ticket aboard the Madness Express.
Thanks, Lucas. Obviously, over Thanksgiving break, we had the Commonwealth Clash. And, the Wahoos finally got that upset against Virginia Tech. And, looking at the scorebooks, it wasn't really an upset because they were favored in that game, but only 3 wins this century. So that was a big get for the Virginia Wahoos.
Exactly right. It was the Cavaliers' first win in the rivalry since 2019, and it was an ugly one for Virginia Tech. To be honest here, it was a 27-7 win for Virginia, but it was a really struggle for Virginia Tech. Had poor field position to start a lot of drives, which puts them in a tough spot. As well, when you go to the quarterback spot, Kyron Jones just 4 completions on a day. It's hard to really get something rolling on offense. Did get a late touchdown from freshman Snook Peterkin, a 57-yarder. But, Hayden, that was a struggle of a game, but maybe if you were to take anything out of it for Virginia Tech, they got some young players, some playing time. But for Hokies fans, their eyes are really on James Franklin at this point.
Yeah, like you said, young players. Jeffrey Overton Jr., he's going to be a big player for this upcoming season. Fans, when they were watching that game, they were basically just looking forward to signing day. And, Virginia Tech, and James Franklin, they got 8 4-stars, and that was, on signing day, and that was ranking them 22 nationally in the country. So I'm sure all fans are impressed. And, the Hokies aren't done when they have the transfer portal coming up in college football playoffs.
That indeed. He's been a busy man. James Franklin was active on the phone the second he became the head man at Virginia Tech, but some of his recruits have put pen to paper. Everett Actolay is here to take a look at the latest news on Virginia Tech's recruiting class.
James Franklin is on a recruiting tear. With National Signing Day today, I thought it would be a good idea to look at this year's class and see just how much star power Coach Franklin is bringing to Blacksburg next fall. For reference, in the final days of Brent Pry's tenure at Virginia Tech, Tech was listed as low as the 124th recruiting class in the nation, out of 136 eligible schools. That put the Hokies dead last in the ACC. For James Franklin, the job ahead of him was a boulder at the bottom of a mountain. He saw what had to be done and got to work immediately. After only having a few three-star recruits through the middle of November, Virginia Tech ended on signing day with the 24th best class in the nation, with 7 4-stars and 16 3-stars. This sandwiches the Hokies right in between Ole Miss and Iowa. This also puts them ahead of number 2 Indiana, number 11 BYU, number 13 Vanderbilt, and of course, 55 spots ahead of that team in Charlottesville. At Penn State, James Franklin was a recruiting machine, bringing in top 25 classes in each of his last 13 seasons at the program. When he was brought to Blacksburg, there was no doubt that that would continue. However, flipping over 10 recruits, a good portion being highly touted 4-stars, just goes to show the immense influence he has and the pedigree he carries. Some of these prospects are guys like linebacker Terry Wiggins, who according to Rivals is the 9th best linebacker in this class. How about running back Messiah Mickens, who is top 20 at his position? Pierce Peterson? That's a top 15 tight end in the country. Those 3 guys are just the tip of the iceberg for James Franklin's first recruiting class. And did I mention they were all top 300 recruits? If you were somehow still questioning the James Franklin effect, let me share with you a very telling stat. Before James Franklin was fired, Penn State was nestled right into the top 20 in recruiting. Now, after they let him go, they are 136th in recruiting. That's the James Franklin effect. If you follow Coach Franklin on Twitter, you've no doubt seen his "Welcome to the Berg" tweet on repeat since his first day on campus. Every time the Hokie faithful see this notification, minutes later, Franklin strikes again in the recruiting pool. For the Hokies, this is something unfamiliar to them, as the program hasn't been able to secure a top 25 class since before the turn of the decade. Thanks to the nonstop work by Coach Franklin, a seismic shift has occurred in the college football world. Virginia Tech is no longer a program in dormancy. They are a program on the rise. I think I speak for all of Hokie Nation when I say this is just the beginning, and to just wait and see what Coach is capable of. Guys?
Awesome stuff, Everett. Well, Hayden, we talked about it at the very beginning of the show. Virginia Tech season is over, but college football is not. So let's take a look at some of the games for Conference Championship Week in all of college football. We got some big ones, and why not start with the Big 12, BYU and Texas Tech. What's catching your eye in this matchup?
I think it's the Red Raiders on this one. I just think they've had a better year than BYU, and, you saw some news lately that Penn State was trying to poach BYU's head coach, so that might be getting in their head a little bit. You don't know how that's going to go mentally, but I got Texas Tech on this one.
Yeah, I think BYU has been a really fun team to watch, especially with Bear Bachmeier at quarterback. But the Red Raiders are hot. For BYU, I think they have to win this game if they want to get into the playoff. And if that upset happens, that'd be really interesting. But without a doubt, Texas Tech is a top 5 team. They are scary. Another one that has playoff implications, Hayden, the SEC, maybe the best conference in football in some people's eyes. Georgia and Alabama are the 2 that get to face off in that game.
Yeah, I feel like this is a weird game because you see they already played this year, and Alabama actually gave Georgia their first loss at home in a while. So that's a huge game for both sides, especially for Alabama. They're trying to stay in the college football playoff, and it's hard to win 2 in a row against the same team in 1 year. So I think I got Georgia on this one.
Yeah, I like once again continuing to talk about the playoff part because with the ACC potentially and or 2 group of 5 teams jumping in, you effectively have to be in the top 10 if you want an at-large spot, which Alabama's right at number 9. So they're kind of in the spot SMU was in last year, right? Which is, if they were to lose the conference championship, are they punished for that? We'll have to find out. But gosh, they're going against a good Georgia team that definitely has a lot of reason to have confidence in that game. But how about the top 2 teams in the country? Indiana and Ohio State. I mean, you can't get much better than that.
Yeah, it's kind of a national championship type game, but we're getting it early with this Big Ten championship. You know, I think that Ohio State is more talented than Indiana. You know, I feel like they just have more draft picks, but I feel like at the quarterback position and, you know, the safety position and the secondary position, they're more experienced. Fernando Mendoza has been there. I think he's going to push away, and you know, Julian Sand, I just think he's too young, so I got Indiana winning that one.
Yeah, I can't wait for that matchup. Indiana last year had a great record, but then when it came to the playoff, didn't have it. But now they're sitting at number 2. You mentioned a lot of experience certainly makes Kurt Cignetti's squad a dangerous one to see this time of year. And let's end it with a game that maybe isn't the highest ranked opponents, but it means a whole lot in terms of the scheme and standings for where this region is, the ACC. UVA and Duke are the 2 in the game, Hayden, which was probably to a surprise for a lot of people heading into the year.
Yeah, Duke kind of got in on a weird tiebreaker when they were like 5th, but you know, they still got in, and this is something that you expect in basketball, and we're coming up prime basketball season, so it's kind of weird to see these 2 teams playing on the gridiron. But you know, like I said earlier about Georgia and Alabama, I don't think that it's going to be hard for UVA to try and win another game in a row against Duke, especially when they played again. And I think Duke's offense is going to look a lot better in this game, and they have to outscore the Cavs because the Cavs defense is one of the best in the ACC, if not the best. So I got Duke on this one.
Okay, that is going to be a fun game. I mean, you got Chandler Morrison, experienced quarterback for Virginia, a whole lot of experience in terms of how many years they've been in college for the Cavaliers. But once again, I'm kind of all for chaos. If Duke somehow wins this game, you're looking at maybe 2 Group of 5 teams getting in, which would be a fascinating thing to see, especially with the expansion that we've seen over the last few years in the college football playoff. It's going to be a fun weekend, Hayden.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be all for us in the Center for the Arts Studio at Virginia Tech. For our reporters, Lucas Harrison, Caleb Bogdan, and Everett Actole, with my partner, Riley Klaus, I'm Haden Tolbert saying so long and enjoy your championship Saturday.